Pacifica Radio, I'm Scott Baba. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he opposes the establishment of a Palestinian state as part of any post-war scenario. Ben Thomas reports.
The U.S. has said an independent Palestinian state should be part of the day after Israel's war against Hamas concludes. But in a nationally broadcast news conference, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rejected that notion and U.S. calls for Israel to scale back its offensive in Gaza, vowing to press ahead until Israel realizes a decisive victory over Hamas. That drew an immediate scolding from the White House. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby.
We obviously see it differently. We believe that the Palestinians have every right to live in an independent state with peace and security, and the president and his team is going to continue to work on that.
Hamas has continued to fight back across Gaza, even in the most devastated areas, and launch rockets into Israel. I'm Ben Thomas.
Meanwhile, Mexico and Chile have asked the International Criminal Court to investigate possible crimes against civilians in Gaza and the October 7th Hamas attack in Israel. Mexico's Foreign Relations Department said in a statement that it filed the request, quote, because of a growing concern about the recent escalation in violence, especially against civilians. There have been widespread claims of breaches of international law by both Hamas and Israeli forces since war erupted. Israel is already defending itself in a case opened last week at the International Court of Justice at The Hague by South Africa, which is looking to prove that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza and that Israel has specific intent to commit genocide. The United States continued strikes against Houthi military sites while the rebel group continues to harass vessels in the Red Sea. Jennifer King reports.
President Biden acknowledged Thursday that the American and British bombardments in Yemen have yet to stop the militants' attacks on vessels in the Red Sea that have disrupted global shipping.
Are they stopping the Houthis? No. Are they going to continue? Yes.
U.S. Central Command confirmed that rebel forces had carried out another missile attack against a U.S.-owned cargo ship, Chem Ranger. The U.S. military says no injuries or damage were reported. U.S. forces conducted a fifth strike Thursday, destroying 2 Houthi anti-ship missiles. On Wednesday, the U.S. military fired strikes against 14 Houthi-controlled sites and put the group on its list of specially designated global terrorists. Pentagon spokeswoman Sabrina Singh.
These missiles on launch rails presented an imminent threat to merchant vessels and U.S. Navy ships in the region and could have been fired at any time.
In his first address since the U.S. and British strikes, the leader of the Houthi rebel group, Abdul Malek al-Houthi, says the attacks would continue. Jennifer King, Washington.
Congress has sent President Joe Biden a short-term spending bill that would temporarily fund federal agencies and avert a looming partial government shutdown that would have hit today. The House approved the measure by a vote of 314 to 108. Catherine Carley filed this report.
This is what the American people want to see. Both sides working together and governing responsibly. No chaos, no spectacle, no shutdown.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says he hopes to see even more bipartisanship now that Congress is funding federal agencies into March and avoiding a shutdown. Half of House Republicans joined Democrats in passing the stopgap. That's frustrating for the right-wing Freedom Caucus, which complains continuing resolutions enable more spending and do nothing to control immigration. Republican Eli Crane represents Arizona.
Congress considers no budgets, legislation never hits against cost limitations, and every bipartisan disagreement is solved simply by spending more on the pet programs of the opposing party.
I'm Catherine Carley for Pacifica Network and Public News Service.
Families of the children and teachers killed in the Uvalde, Texas school massacre are renewing demands for criminal charges after a scathing Justice Department report again laid bare numerous failures by police during one of the deadliest classroom shootings in U.S. history. In the report released yesterday, federal officials detailed, quote, cascading failures by police in responding to the 2022 massacre of 19 students and 2 teachers. Kate Fisher reports.
The nearly 600-page report provides the fullest account yet of one of the worst school shootings in U.S. history. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland said that more lives could have been saved if authorities acted sooner.
The law enforcement response at Robb Elementary School on May 24, 2022, and in the hours and days after, was a failure that should not have happened.
The report highlights a failure to follow active shooter protocol, with officers treating the crisis like a barricaded subject situation, despite several indications that the gunman, armed with an assault rifle, was still firing at children while the door to the classroom was probably unlocked.
I'm Scott Baba for Pacifica Radio.